Hi, I'm Nitin Baid. I'm the editor of films like Gully Boy, Razi, Trap, Masan, and many others. And here I'm with Agrima, doing a lot of chit chat.
As Eisenstein once said, that magic of cinema lies in a cut. And you, sir, I feel truly exemplify this statement.
Yeah, as in that sounds very heavy for me. And firstly, I would request you not to call me sir to start with. I still feel like I'm not reached anywhere. I don't know what to say about the Eisenstein, right? Eisenstein thing, but I do agree with it at every level. Is like it's something that is very amazing that a cut can change, bring so much, like the aspect of time that it can play with, and the idea of a cut surpassing time and space in a very interesting manner without you feeling anything. That is something magical, and like it's almost shaping your vision in a certain manner whenever you think of a story, like once you've seen a film or something or whatever that is, like it's the idea of like when you read a narrative, when you like this whole idea of a cut, especially in film, of course, it like you have a very distinct version of like a cut that makes a difference between someone 10 years from 20 years, 20 to 30, and like surpassing time and movement and space. But it's like it's a psychological upbringing that you start growing up with once you start watching something which is some sort of a thing. And that is very interesting to me, because when you think of stories, that cut becomes like an element of you wanting to jump somewhere without even realizing ki, oh, like at a basic level how easy it is or how difficult it is. But it's so easy to communicate with that katka feeling, and you can just move across time and space.
So can you like tell us more about how how the first few interactions with the director shape up the
See,
vision of the film?
in terms of vision of the film and the process, it changes quite a bit. Like with different directors, it's different process first of all. And over the course of time, when you work with the director over one to two films or whatever, the relationship changes in terms of you become very comfortable. You know that person. It's almost like you are in a marriage of a sorts, in a very interesting manner, because the director had like two wives. Is like one is cinematographer and one is the editor. It's like a joke which we have like between our, like me, Neeraj, all of us like joke about it. So it's like that relationship sort of like goes from one wife to another wife, and you are sort of like playing that ball where you know the other person, you know what we intended. So once you have built a camaraderie, whether it's with Neeraj, or anyone like Meghna ma'am or any one of these people, is like now we have a chemistry in terms of knowing each other. So what happens is like I understand in her film what is she looking at, in Zoya's film what is Zoya looking at. So when we sit together, we already have surpassed some basic layers of communication. So we already know ki, okay, we are aiming at something bigger or aiming at some different conversation.
Us as film students and who are in the more structured way of learning.
Yeah.
We'd like to believe.
Yeah.
So over here, like we are taught everything, like right from say Battleship Potemkin to like the beginning of cinema to what we are watching now in contemporary indie cinema as well. The focus is always on holding the frames.
Yeah.
Because of short form coming into play, a lot of it has gone for a toss.
See, there's nothing called frantic cutting and holding in terms of like your film demands a certain kind of cutting. It's not like you plan like, okay, I'm gonna cut this film frantically or I'm gonna hold this film. Like you have past lives, you have challenges, you have Pathan, you have something like Masan. Like it's like the film, the narrative of the film dictates the kind of cutting that was needed. Like your paper पे the story का एक rhythm रहता है, and पे जिस तरह से लिखा जाता है, that itself will dictate a certain rhythm and pace. Like a Nolan will cut it in a certain way because he writes it in a certain way. Like when you know his shots won't hold beyond like there'll be cuts every 1 second or something, like in Interstellar or something like that, which is like unless there's a dialogue scene or something where he's holding kind of a thing, but like he is constantly, because it's also to play on lot of understanding of how to maintain the, when you are telling a story like Oppenheimer is a kind of a story which is such a verbose story. Now when you're telling some sort of a story which is that verbose, you have to keep the audience constantly engaged and constantly moving, because if you just hold on to it, the cuts are basically creating energy of some sort. So you have to write it in a way that the dialogues that you say are very short and quick. So every cut will just make the energy go a little faster. So there's nothing called like frantic cutting or this one. It's like your film dictates a certain pace. Like Masan mein I can't do frantic cutting. It's like it needs that hold, it needs the pacing, it needs this one requirement. And whether it's like I'm doing a Love Hostel, I'm doing a Rocky Rani, I'm doing a Darling, all of them require different kind of cutting and pacing. And they were shot also in some sort of thought process like that. So you have to follow what is the rhythm of the film.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you believe cognitive science and psychological impact on the audiences is basically crafted? That's the editor's craft, like to
Totally,
take on that.
I completely agree with that, because even though we underplay our job that much, but it is a lot of it. Like especially in non-fiction, it's like you are constructing it at every beat. In fiction, a lot of it like comes from your paper is giving you some sort of a writing mode. It's starting off that, and then every process of filmmaking just makes it more and more sort of elevated, or bringing closer to your form of storytelling that you want to tell. But it's the edit where everything comes together, sound, all the elements come together, and that's where you really get to play as to how you want the audiences to think, and how you want this moment to be perceived, and how long you want the moment to be perceived with, how long you want to hold it, or how short you want to hold it. So those things which will psychologically affect the audience in a certain manner, as to when they walk out of the theater they will feel this feeling, and this is what they will feel at that moment. That's the feeling, like I feel like it's a part of that editor's job.
Right. Say, for example, Trapped,
Hmm.
and that was one of your first few works. Right?
Yeah.
And that, because we are currently doing like studying about one space, one character, and how, like, as screenwriters, we
Hmm.
should first limit our options, and then there comes the real creativity.
Hmm.
So, in that film specifically, how did you manage to sort of keep up the pace of the film, keep up the tension, and still not let the audience lose interest? Because there's only so much
So much you can
visually possible in that one.
see. Of course, like I feel like you have a when you are doing like a singular space film, you have a reference of a lot of interesting films which have been done before also, in terms of what works for them. So when you watch those films, okay, it doesn't matter as long as the idea of a story is moving ahead. And because there's this person, you are telling a story of a person who's stuck inside a house and he wants to come out of the house. So it's a classic survival story. So survival story is always fun. Like when you watch 127 Hours, it's about this guy who's stuck in this whole thing and he wants to come out of there. Now the thing is, survival story works on like you feel for that person and you want him to be saved. That is a core thing emotionally that sets you up. Then secondly is how active he is, what is he trying to do. So then you are interested in the mind of a human who is trying out different things, because when we have to survive, and that's the most beautiful thing about humankind, is they'll survive in anything, or they will try to bring a forth. If like you don't have food to eat, you'll find a way to make food, like you get food. If you don't have something to eat, like human beings are just adaptable at every course. And that's what makes it interesting, is the way then the script is written in terms of like exploring these thematic things. Like every layer is just exploring about food, hunger, loneliness, everything. So all these elements are there in the film, and those are the layers which you so slowly break it down, kind of a thing. As his progression happens, first it starts off in a manner where he's like doing the normal things which everyone will do, trying to jump off the window, trying to do this, trying to do that. those things. Now the stakes need to be higher. Then you go into the second stakes, he's trying to hit the woman on this one. Then you go into the third stakes, is where you are like, okay, now he doesn't have food to eat, how will he eat food? Like he's cooking up a bird, pigeon or whatever, and then at the same time he's throwing up windows, he's throwing up TV or whatever. So the stakes just need to go higher and higher, so the audience doesn't feel like they are being cheated, like they. And these kind of films, like, because the audience is smarter than you are, so you have to be one step ahead in terms of a narrative, because if you are not that one step ahead, audience will feel like, oh, it was so easy, why is he wasting a time, kind of a thing. So, and then you have to keep the momentum and pacing in a manner where it's relentless, where it slows down when you have the emotional beats. Rest of the time it's like slowly progressing, because the audience can get exhausted and can get claustrophobic and everything, but that's part of the nature of the film and everything. Like Underneath Sayanaz is a great example of like how beautifully a story can be told, like with like images. They've constantly created like these flurry of images which he's thinking of through the course of the film, and that makes it very interesting.
Climax for Trap
Yeah,
is almost like an anti-climax. Right?
Yeah.
It's just,
yeah,
it's not in your face.
It's not in your face.
Like,
Yeah.
Sort of come out and everything. But
Totally.
it just
Totally.
walks away
Totally.
into the crowd.
It walks into the crowd, because the idea was, I think Vikram had the idea, it's just the bizarreness of the situation of like someone who's stuck in an urban situation, like someone who might be just there and he's stuck, and we don't even realize that, because it's a city where nobody gives a fuck about anyone till you actually care about something, kind of a thing.
Sure.
And it's like in that big building, somebody is stuck on top floor. You wouldn't even realize till one day you hear in the newspaper, oh, there was a man who was stuck in that building and everything. So that's Bombay for you also. It's like the city is complex, it's caring, but it's complex, it's weird, but it's beautiful also. So it's like very interesting that way.
A little bit about your film.
About my film, it's a film which comes from a personal space. It's a film called Chashma, which is it's the first short film I've directed, and with Konkana, and there's this really wonder kid, three kids, all of them are Shafin Patel, Ayan Khan, and Kabir Shah, all of them like amazing actors. Shot with amazing people, worked with an incredible crew. It's about like the whole. It questions the idea of, do you really see things for what they are, or do you let your perception play in terms of how you see things?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. When can we watch it?
As I said, where you plan a screening and I'll be there.